Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. Today we have a special session on English poetry. We have three poems and multiple choice questions, objective questions. I normally don't like these types of questions when it comes to literature, but sometimes you have to be very specific and very careful about the tiny little terms. So if you go to your book, page 201, there's a short poem there, like actually a dozen poems. We will be doing 3 of them, hopefully. Poem number 1 is entitled, "The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls." Somebody please read. Okay.
The tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight darkens, the
Twilight
falls. Along the sea sands damp and brown, the traveler hastens towards the town, and the tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands face the footprints in the sand, and the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but nevermore returns the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises, the tide falls.
Okay, nice reading. One more time.
The tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight
Could you speak up?
The tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight darkness, the curlew falls. Along the sea sands damp and brown, the traveler hastens toward that town.
The traveler hastens.
Toward the town. And the tide rises, the tide falls.
Rises.
The tide rises, the tide rises. And the tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft, white hands trace the footprints in the sands, and the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds and their tails stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but nevermore returns the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises, the tide falls.
One more, please. Run in.
The tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sands damp and brown, the traveler hastens towards the town, and the tide rises and the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints in the sand, and the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but no more returns the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises and the tide falls.
I think you can get an idea, at least from the title. The tide rises and the tide falls. If the tide here is used to just refer to the tide itself, the waves, the movement of, it could also be symbolic. So there's an image here of something that goes up and down, up and down, up and down, never ceases. Right? Continues. So the tide rises, the tide falls. The twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Curlew is a bird, like it says in the book. Along the sea sands, damp and brown, a traveler hastens toward the town. The tide rises, the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls. Look at the image here, beautiful image. Darkens like a piece of cloth. But the sea in the darkness calls. I like this hesitation. The sea in the darkness calls. The sea calls is also another image, another metaphor. The little waves with their soft white hands, the little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints in the sands, and the tide rises, the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their stalls. The steed is the poetic word for a horse. Steed. Poetic. You see it used usually poetically and sometimes sarcastically in comedy movies and stuff. The steeds in their stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls, the person who takes care of the horses. The day returns, but never more returns the traveler to the shore. But the world doesn't end here with the traveler not returning. If somebody falls down, if somebody dies, if somebody is gone, that's not the end of the world, because the tide will rise and will fall. Nice little poem. If you look, I know some of you are writing poetry, good poetry indeed, but usually you go for the very literal, too much telling, rather than sometimes some people define a poem as poetry as metaphor. No metaphor, no poetry. Look at the beautiful here, darkness settles, and the waves with little white hands. Interesting. Okay, this poem, there's a question here. What kind of figurative language appears in line 8? Raise your hand. You should know, because there will be questions like this in your exam. What kind of figurative language appears in line 8? Simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole. Listen, if you don't know the answer, at least try to eliminate one of them, two of them, and it will be easy usually to eliminate. Can you eliminate one, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is this 7? The little waves with their soft white hands. So you're eliminating hyperbole. That's, I think, yeah. Hyperbole is exaggeration. Can you eliminate another one? Simile. Why? We usually use like, as to indicate a simile. So it's either a metaphor or a personification. Why is that? Why?
White hands for the little waves.
The waves are not human beings. They're not little kids. They don't have hands. So when you liken something to a human being, you talk about it as if it were a person. So you personify, a personification. Number 2, please. Cesar.
Based on the text, what does the word efface mean in the line 9?
And now you always go to the text. In your exams, you should be reading the text, the unseen poem, more than once. So the little waves, what do the little waves usually do? They have soft white hands that efface the footprints in the sands. So, remove, efface, remove. Create, remove, follow, outline. That's correct. Number 3, which of the following is a symbol of for death in the poem? The sands, traveler, the sea, the morning. Which one symbolizes death? That is like a machine, just doesn't care.
I think the sea, from the sea in the darkness falls. And if we want to talk about the traveler would be the person who dies, not the sea.
Possible.
Yeah. So
That's
the sea is
that's correct. And usually the morning indicates new beginnings or hope, possibly. That's really nice. Raise your hand, please, if you know. This is a very interesting question. Which of the following is an example of onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia is a literary term, figure of speech, when the word and its sound have probably, like the word is taken from its sound. Like cuckoo, like crash, like, these words. Please. D. What's D? Neigh. Neigh. And it's the sound of the horses. Neigh. Neigh. The horses neigh. 5. In which image does a detail appeal to the sense, this is imagery, to the sense of touching? An image is anything in the poem that appeals to any of our, 5 senses. Things you smell, things you touch, things you feel, things you hear, things you see. Touch. The twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sands, damp and brown. Darkness settles on roofs and walls. Stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. Please.
Along the sea sands, damp and brown.
That's possible. Why?
Maybe because it appeals to touch. It's damp.
Okay. I think B is possible, but there is a better answer. C is a better answer. You're right, but B invokes more than that, But yeah, I agree. Damp, it's something damp, you touch it. But because here we have more concrete words, the roofs and the walls, possible. Number 1, the twilight darkens, and the curlew is what kind of bird? So this is, you see and hear. Calls, the bird sings. The last one also appeals to what you hear. The steeds stamp and neigh, and the hostler calls. Eliminate and try to, if these are not my questions, of course, I collected them from the internet, SAT box and those literature box. If I want to ask you this question in your exam, I'd really be conflicted whether to use B and C or not, because I feel that B can be a possible answer. Who is the speaker of this poem? Who's the speaker of this poem, please? The traveler? Are you sure? Are you sure? The traveler here, the traveler is a character, but this is not a first-person poem. It doesn't say, I am the traveler, I'm going, I'm gone, I'm never back. So this speaks about the traveler in the third person. In the third person, he or she. So possibly, the speaker in the poem is actually not the rising and the falling tide, not a character in the poem, not the traveler, someone outside the poem. Outside the poem. This question is tricky. For example, if you have to answer it about Ozymandias by Shelley, remember? How many speakers we have there? 2.
No one, it's Ozymandias. Just one.
I met a traveler who once.
We have Ozymandias speaks. The traveler speaks. The speaker of the poet speaks, and also the sculptor also speaks. Possible, yeah. And that's why this is why the poem is interesting, layers. Exactly. Okay, thank you very much. Good job. Next, what is the overall mood, atmosphere, or tone of the poem? Please. Please. Optimistic.
Whenever something falls down, it will rise again.
Possible. But what happens to the traveler? Look at the time, the setting. It happens at night. It's dark. Everything is going home. What happens to the traveler? Look at what the text says here. Stamp. Look at the negative diction, the words. The sounds even, the darkness, right? The morning breaks here. The morning breaks. Raise your hand if you know.
It's live.
Raise your hand if you know. How would you translate the morning breaks into Arabic? Only 2 of you know. I know you know. The morning breaks. Breaks what? Breaks the heads. Breaks the pattern. Breaks the The circle of breaks darkness. What does it break, Roseanne? Yeah, thank you. It means to start, break. We say break of dawn, بزوغ الفجر. The morning breaks doesn't have to do with breaking unless it's metaphorical. I don't know how they are related etymologically. The steeds in the stall stamp and neigh. The hostler calls, the day returns, but never more returns the traveler to the shore. What happened to the traveler? There's something missing. Probably drowned, died.
Because he's saying the sea in the darkness calls.
But look at how the sea is, the tide is, repeated 4 times, the tide rises, the tide. So that adds to the circularity here.
But how he drowns while he went to the town?
We don't know.
Not in the sea.
We don't know. Maybe there is a swimming pool and he died there. We don't know actually, but never more we have the traveler, probably sick of this, tired of this, too old to work, but never more. You know, never more. The Raven by, what's his name, Edgar Allan Poe. I think the tone is somber. You pronounce the B here, somber. Means melancholic, sad, dark, pessimistic kind of. Listen, joyous and excited, possibly the same, right?
Yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah, yeah.
Three, need
Also,
each other.
optimistic can also be termed under these.
I eliminated.
Good. It's always good to work on eliminating the things you're certain that they're not correct. Which of the following ideas does the tide symbolize in this poem? Again, please, raise your hand. Which of the following ideas does the tide symbolize? Please. Again. Are you sure?
Maybe this is travel nature.
Life goes on. Are you sure? Can we eliminate one, please? Eliminate one. The man hasn't come back. Probably it is. But it has nothing to do with the tide. The day follows the night also kind of, I don't know, not connected to the tide itself. I think B and D are possible.
I think that D is too
Life goes on. I think B is closer to this. But the sea does have cycles. But this is the literal meaning like Rahaf just suggested. B, symbolize. I like these questions because they cover all the tiny aspects you should be familiar with. Which of the, this is going to be tough. Which of the following lines contains alliteration? 4, no, please. 4, 6, 9, or 13. Four. Do you now understand why most good books and websites usually number their poems at line 5, 10, 15, 20? So you go quickly to locate instead of like counting every time. Please.
Line 4.
Are you sure? What does it say?
Traveler hastens toward the town.
Line number 4 says 1, 2, 3, 4. A traveler hastens toward the town. A traveler, like, because there is here the repetition of the ta sound, the consonant sounds alliteration. But sometimes I see alliteration highlighted at actually 2 repeated consonants rather than just like 3 and up. So I think I agree 4 is the closest answer, but possibly line 6 says here, but it's not the initial sound. Alliteration is the initial sound. Okay. That's okay. تستعجلوا رزقكم. Number 10, the repetition of the sah sound at the ends of words or anywhere else in the poem throughout the poem is an example of, that's consonants. Alliteration, usually the beginning of words. Assonance for vowel sounds, consonants for like just repetition anywhere. But honestly, I like to use alliteration for both consonants and alliteration, personally. I don't know why. But again, so alliteration focuses on the beginning of words, right? We have a really nice poem here. In your book, it's page 209. Elegy Before Death. I'll read it very quickly. There will be rose and rhododendron when you are dead under the ground. Still will be heard from white syringas heavy with bees a sunny sound. Still will the tamaracks be raining after the rain has ceased. And still will there be robins in the stubble, brown sheep upon the warm green hills. Spring will not ail, no autumn falter, nothing will know that you're gone, saving alone some sullen plough land. None but yourself sets foot upon, saving the mayweed and the pigweed. Nothing will know that you're dead. These and perhaps a useless wagon standing beside some tumbled shed. Oh, that will pass with your great passing, little of beauty not your own, only the light from common water, only the grace from simple stone. Well, the title suggests that this is an elegy, right? Even if you don't have the title, if this is the unseen poem, there are words that indicate what it is about, right? What is the word repeated most here? Even in the opening, there will be rose, and this ugly word here, when you are dead under the ground. Still will be heard from the white syringas, heavy with bees, a sunny sound. You will die. I don't know if this is something like the other poem. When you die, life will go on. The moon is not going to stop. The sun is not going to stop. The birds are not going to stop. Still will the tamaracks be raining after the rain has ceased, and still will there be robins. You know robins, a kind of birds? Brown sheep upon the warm green hill. Spring will not ail. I love this image. What's ail? To be sick. Ail. No autumn falter, you know. Somebody moves, somebody's drunk, you falter. Too old, too tired to walk. Nothing will know that you are gone. Saving alone some sullen plough land, none but yourself sets foot upon. Saving the May. I'm not sure if saving here means save, because save also means accept. Accept. Saving alone some sullen plough land, none but you sets foot upon. Saving the mayweed and the pigweed, nothing will know that you're dead. Thieves and perhaps a useless wagon, you know, Volkswagen, it's a vehicle standing beside some tumbled shed. Oh, there will pass with you great passing. What's passing here? your death. This is euphemistic. But already how, I find it really interesting how you talk to somebody, address somebody, say, when you're dead under the ground. Very tough, very vulgar, possibly. You don't say this to your friends. I don't know what you make of this. But then at the end you say, with your great passing. Little beauty, not your own, only the light from common water, only the grace from simple stone. Somebody? What is the subject of the verb phrase will be heard in line number 3? Line number 3 says, still will be, there's even no empty subject with there. Still will be, please. You still will be, you're taking something from the line 2. Still will be heard from white syringas, heavy with bees, a sunny sound. Sound it is. It should be, this is how poetry plays with syntax and grammar all the time. It's always important to trace the subject and the verb and the adjectives and what modifies what. A sunny sound will be heard from white syringas. That's what it is. A sunny sound will be a sound.
The subject here, you read the sound. The sound
You will be heard. No. You is for when you are dead. Still be heard, like you're going to be dead, gone under the ground, and life is not going to stop. A sound will be heard. Birds will be singing. It's a delayed subject here. The poetic device that's not, this is a tricky question, that's not in the poem. Eliminate. In this question, only by eliminating. We have enjambment.
No, it is there.
Wait a minute. Allusion, personification, assonance, alliteration. Can you lock? Can you have a lock? In enjambment, I didn't mention this. One of you mentioned it like a couple of, okay?
Enjambment is like separating the sentence into two lines.
Okay, when just one grammatical sentence, simple compound sentence goes on 2-3 lines, like we have with John Donne and the Romantics usually. Remember Shakespeare? Every line was basically a sentence. Shall I compare thee with the summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Look at this. But with John Donne, it goes on and on, sometimes 3, 4. Look at Shelley. Sometimes would go for more than 3 or 4 sentences. This is called enjambment. I don't like it as a literary device, but I usually pay like attention to it because is there a personification there in the whole poem? Is there a personification? Where's that, Rav?
I guess when she said that when nothing will feel that you're gone.
Nothing will feel. Spring will not ail. Spring will not ail. People ail. People ail. And even autumn falters could be. Is there a personification?
Yes, I think there is.
Spring will not ail is the personification. The assonance, you'll find many repetition of certain sounds. Sounds, like where are the sounds there? I can see many lines having the sounds in them. Sound saving me. Alliteration. Probably the first line has alliteration. Rose and rhododendron. So allusion. Allusion when you allude to another text, probably another myth or something like we had in what's the poem? Dover Beach. Sophocles, the Aegean Okay. See why this is tricky? You have to go to the whole text, and it doesn't give you one line. Like in question number 1 gives you line 3 to go check. But here you have to go through the whole poem. And again, in case you have this question, it's always smart to delay it until the very end, so you have a chance to go through the poem many times. I like this kind of question, but it's tricky. Look at it. The repetition of still in stanzas 1 and 2 serves to do which of the following? Look at this. It gives you 3 options, and then you need to choose. Emphasize what remains after death. Add to the impression of the silence of death. Give a feeling of finality. You don't choose from these, because all you have to do is A, B, C, D. Remember? And there's an E here. Wow. So you'd say all of the above, none of the above, 1 only, 2 only, 3 only. Yes? Still. Look at the poem. You know, still could function as however. You could say, for example, you talk about the importance of vaccination, for example, and how it protects people against diseases and illnesses. And you just give a lot. And you say, still, some believe that vaccines are bad. So this kind of still shocks us, brings us to, I like using it, it's more powerful than however sometimes. Okay. Still, how many stills are there? 3 stills? So you will be dead, still. There'll be something, still. Still will be heard, still will be, and then still will there be robins. Only, 3, I think. Line 3, line 5, line 6. Last word in line 6. Please.
I think D, because
it emphasizes.
What? Yeah, add to the impression of silence of the.
You're saying D?
D, 2 only.
I say C, not 1 only, to emphasize what remains after.
Okay. I think all of the above. I think all of the above. Look at this. Emphasize what remains after death. Somebody is dead, life goes on. So what remains after death? And add impression to the silence of death. I think this is the weakest answer, but in the context can be understood. And give a feeling of finality. That's it. You're gone.
But it's still, so we don't talk about the whole line, but it's still. So
We have 3 stills, not 1. So which one are you referring to? So the question is about the 3 stills here. Altogether, they could give an impression of the 3 of them. I found it very tricky, I admit. But it emphasizes, it gives an impression about death, and that's it. The expression, your great passing, line 17, please.
The expression "you regret passing" line 17 is best interpreted as death.
Death. That's very good. When somebody, when you say he passed away, right? That's a euphemistic term for he died. He passed away. You were passing. The passing of somebody. Next. The references to plants in the first stanza. Can you eliminate one answer? D. It's not about gardeners. Nobody is writing a poem for. Because here it says, there will be roses. So, and when you die, nature is not going to die. So probably nature is not. Nature continues. A or B? This is not a romantic poem to glorify nature. Nature is used here, exploited to make points. Give a sense of permanence. Possible, I think E is possible. Gives a sense of permanence, permanence, eternity. Or B. Imply that death is a natural part of life. I think B is a closer answer than E. So there will only be 4 choices in your exams, not 5. That's a lot of choices.
I think give a sense of permanence could be true if we say that it is a given sense that life goes on, not death.
It's the same. Yeah, possible. So if you're saying here, like B is closer to the idea, the question itself, natural part and plant. E doesn't indicate that. I don't know. The main point of stanza 4, I'm sorry, it's not divided into stanzas in your book, but again, lines 13 and 16. The main idea, what do you understand from this? Read the stanza again. Yeah, I find this difficult a little bit. Number 6, yes.
B.
Yes, please.
B, no one or nothing will know you're gone.
That mayweed and the pigweed must be saved. I don't think so. No one or nothing will know you are gone. But here he's saying saving like except. So nature is uncaring. You lived alone. Only that which is undervalued will be affected by your death. I don't think if this is symbolic, talking about somebody who cared for the poor, for the downtrodden, and when he died, nobody cared about him. Nobody came to the funeral. Nobody came to pay, their respect. Nobody talked about them on social media. Nobody tweeted about them. But the downtrodden, the masses, the very poor people, here probably represented by the pigweeds and the mayweed, the undervalued, the things that, the nothing. So only that which is undervalued will be affected by your death because he cared for those things. 7. The word tumbled, again line 16. Standing beside some tumbled shed. In the context, may best be defined as, you know what a shed is? Like small cottage, probably sometimes in the backyard, people stay in, keep stuff. Rustic. I think it's closer to ruined here than standing beside, because it talks about these and perhaps a useless wagon standing beside some tumbled shed. Like rustic has this exotic thing to it. Positive could be when something is rustic. It doesn't have to be with rusty. If it is rusty, maybe possible. But ruined, like it's like poor, in a poor condition. Ruined. Between number 8, between the 4th and 5th stanza, the meaning of death shifts from 4 and 5. Question number 8. There was a turn, right? The main idea was that your death meant nothing to life, to plants, to trees, to roses, right? And then there was some kind of an exception. Save. Some things were affected by your. So, possibly, please. I think A is the right answer. The unimportant to the important. Natural to super. Where's supernatural? I can't see it. I don't think so. Like in the afterlife, you mean?
Yeah, like passing and only light from common water.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, look at the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. If something that goes against the logic, that's usually supernatural. Other than this, it's not. It's still natural. From the unimportant, shifting to the important. Some things will miss you. I really need to read more about this poem and see. But look at this. This is elegy. The other day, one student was training for the poetry festival. She was reading this elegy poem. And usually, elegy poetry is really moving, really sad. It was really a very, very moving poem. But sometimes they're not direct. You could be symbolic, you could be. The references to common water, line 19, and simple stone imply that, look, take your time. Common and simple, look at the words, the choice of words. This is the how things change. Can you eliminate 2 or 3 answers? You're eliminating A, B. So it doesn't talk about the beauty of stone and water. Only water and stone, endure, live longer, forever. Death will take place in a rural area. The person who will die is a peasant. It doesn't talk about this person being a farmer. So either B or E. It's possibly E. Death, I don't know why this keeps saying that death. Death being discussed will remove the beauty of essential elements. I don't know how.
In the
last line.
There will be vast with you great passage, little of the beauty not your own, only the light of common water. So talking about the change of this.
Only the grace from simple stone. Sorry? B. Only stone. I think it's closer to the right answer. Close to the right answer, but I'm into E more. It says here, little of beauty not your own, only the light from common water, only the grace from simple stone.
It's like your grave will be beautiful, but you won't be.
Death being discussed will remove the beauty of essential elements. I think B is also close. The poem may be classified as sonnet. Is it a 14-line poem? 3 verse. There is some kind of rhyme. Dramatic monologue. Ballad. شد حيلك يا بلد. It's in the title. The title says elegy. But finally, in 10 minutes, this is a short poem. I like this poem. Look at it. Look at the shape and everything. This is a modern poem. Words are keys or sanctions or stones. I give you my word, you pocket it and keep the change. Here is a word on the tip of my tongue, love. I hold it close, though it dreams of leaving. It's clearly a modern poem. The shape, the ambiguity, the vagueness. Free verse actually rather than blank verse. Words are keys, or sanctions, or stones. The doubt here, the uncertainty, lack of knowledge. I give you my word. Look at no punctuation marks. I give you my word, you pocket it and keep the change. Very strange image, right? Here is a word on the tip of my tongue, love. I hold it close, though it dreams of leaving. Which of the following poetic techniques is not used in the poem? Yeah? Personification. There is a metaphor, alliteration, enjambment. The whole poem is enjambment. Just keeps going on. Words are keys. Tongue. Tip of my tongue. Good for you. Metaphor. Words are keys. Are words keys? It doesn't say words are like keys. So, D is the odd one out. Onomatopoeia. The scarcity of, listen, when you come to me with poems, I always tell you, please add your commas and full stops and punctuation marks correctly. Because as beginners, you have to stick to the grammar first, so you learn later on how to use or not use punctuation marks for something, to convey an idea, to convey a message. So there's a question here. The scarcity, actually the lack, how do we have punctuation marks? Only the colon. The lack of punctuation marks in this poem. Please take 1 minute, look at the text, and see the question. Scarcity from scarce, scarcely. Okay. Someone, please.
I think that the right answer is C, because the first answer implies that words flow without meaning. There's nothing without meaning.
They flow, but the last bit here makes it unacceptable. Good.
First, the reader to read the poem with his or her own process. The readers already has different in reading the poem.
But B is close. B is close.
About words, so use your own words to read it.
Okay.
Implies that the statements about words in the poem are related. We can't understand the poem without relating the words to each other.
What's that? Yeah.
I feel like B and C, it's related to each other. Like if you read it in
B and C.
if you read it in your own process, so you will have different related statements of words. So it's related to each other.
Like Shams suggests here that even with punctuation marks, readers could also have different poses, different readings and interpretations. It doesn't have to be very much related to lack of punctuation, which is really good.
I think that B and E are the same meaning, so we can eliminate
A and
E. Yeah, are you
removes all barriers for the reader.
so we can eliminate both of them.
Possible also. That's very good thinking.
I think it's C.
It's E, removes all barriers for the reader. I would take this. I would personally when I talk about it. But what? I think the closest answer is C. All words, all statements are related. You don't stop. But I would, if this is not an objective question, I would happily take B and E in your discussion of the poem, in your reflection on the poem. You could say lack of removes, barriers, removes, makes everything equal and stuff.
So in a paragraph, we use punctuation, although the sentences are related.
Of course, yeah, I agree.
Removing
That's very good. That's academic writing. This is poetry. Sometimes when you don't use punctuation marks, you highlight the fact that things are not connected sometimes, that things are melted together. Although a paragraph, an academic paragraph particularly, it's actually in the definition a group of related sentences. But this is a poetic thing that many, especially in modernist literature, modernist poetry, you will have this. Is it Ulysses by what's his name? James Joyce? The last 50 pages almost have no punctuation marks. 50 pages. Wow. And now, in the 50, because this is related to the stream of consciousness. This is something happening in the mind of the...
But I have read poems for the modern writers, actually American, and he wrote like, I carry your heart, I with a small letter, and he started it. So
Yeah, we're going to read something for E.E. Cummings. We'll
Yeah,
see
Cummings,
that.
yeah.
We'll see that. Next, number 3, to keep the change. Keep the change. If you pay somebody money, keep the change, please. Keep the change. Give it a minute.
I think it's C.
C.
The speaker is reluctant to make a promise. Because like if you give somebody a word, it's a key and it's locked, so it's a promise.
So what's your answer?
It's C.
But already giving him words, already giving him the change even of the words.
Well, after that,
The change is not literal here.
after that, the speaker says, "There's a word on my tongue, love, but I keep it for myself."
Okay, the poem here says, ايش بتقول? The poem says, I hold it close. Oh, sorry, Gabriel. I give you my word. That's you pocket it and keep the change.
So it's a promise. At first, the speaker said,
The fact that the word love is mentioned, is uttered, it could tell that he kept his word, his promise. Very tricky. That's why. Go on quickly.
Words are keys. So if you give somebody a word, it's kind of like you lock yourself into a promise, and the person puts that promise in his, like metaphorically speaking, he takes that promise and he depends on it, so he keeps the change. But then after that, she says, "I have a word." The speaker, I don't know if it's a she or a he. Here is a word on the tip of my tongue, love. But I hold it close, though it dreams of leaving. I want to say it to you, but I am afraid of saying it to you, because saying it to you means I'm putting...
That's a possible reading, but the fact that the word is there in the text, it's out there. He kept his promise, at least in the poem. I see what you mean. Like, the word is still there and it doesn't leave, but it's written on the page, so it left already. I think he kept his promise by writing this poem, by writing the word love there. If he sends this poem to the person he loves, the woman he loves, he already uttered the word. Even if he says, I want to tell you I love you, but I can't because I'm afraid, you already said that. So possibly, I think E is the right answer. Because whatever I say, no matter what I say, you will keep the change. The change here is symbolizing The influence and pocketing it, keeping it for a while. Possible. In line 9, the pronoun it most likely refers to. Are you sure? Love, I hold it close, though it, to it, refer to the word love. Correct. Quickly. Take 1 minute for this question. If you study in America, all your questions will be like this. Okay. With which statement would the speaker probably agree? Words may reveal mysteries. Words may confine as well as liberate. Words may be a burden. May reveal mysteries that this man loves. May confine as well as liberate. It liberates you when you express it, but it controls you because you've just said what you want to do. I like this expression. Confine, confinement, solitary confinement. Somebody, as well as liberate. Words may be a burden. I think it's I agree with you. And I find it very interesting how it doesn't say all of the above. It says 1, 2, and 3. Very challenging. The phrase dreams of leaving in line 10 may be interpreted as, listen, this is also a metaphor and also a personification. The words dream are words human beings.
No.
And again, this could answer part of your question, Rahaf, here. Very tricky, very. This, when what's his name? Polonius asked Hamlet what he was doing, and Hamlet was like, words, words, words. A very famous, underrated quote by Hamlet. So sadly, I think C is the right answer. The speaker's desire to say that he or she is loved. So here understand that the word dreams of leaving his tongue, the tip of his tongue. The inability of the poet to communicate. You understanding the poem in a particular way. You're interpreting the poem when it is in the mind of the poet. I agree with you. Yeah, of course, and I agree with you. This is very good. But what I'm saying is that I take the poem itself as an expression, as a declaration, as a statement. The fact that the poem is written, it's a statement. It's out there already. But I see your point. Sorry? Yeah. Listen, when we talk about Palestinian resistance literature, for example, we say the very act of writing is an act of resistance. Just writing, no matter what, is an act of resistance. Okay? So inability to communicate is the poem there. The poet wished. Maybe, possible also. Also possible. So, yeah, these are tricky questions. I think C is the best answer. Finally, lines 3 and 4 may be characterized as a shift from. Let me just see lines 3 and 4. Literal to interpretive, conflict to resolution, definition to situation, analysis to argument, metaphor to simile. Eliminate one quickly. There's no simile there.
There's nothing literal about the poem.
When you say words are stones, this is not literal. So A. B, C, D. I think he doesn't analyze, he doesn't say words are keys because. He doesn't analyze this. He just keeps giving us possibilities and options. And does he resolve the conflict? No. He doesn't. So the only possible answer is, although I'm not happy with it, not satisfied with it, but I got to it by eliminating the other answers. Definition to a situation. بمعنى إنه he said words are keys. What? In what sense? He defines what he means by keys, like stanchions or stones.
I think it is resolution of conflict. Like,
He doesn't give the answer.
it is like
The conflict is still there. The fact that the word is still struggling to
But he doesn't
dream, to leave.
like he making the stones is like an object to fight. Then the stanchion.
Things you throw, not necessarily fight. But maybe, yeah, possible. Possible. Thank you. I'll stop here.